We came to Alanya in December, not for the beaches, but for what was left behind. This part of Turkey is filled with ancient ruins and centuries of history. So for a month, we set out to explore castles, Roman ruins, and forgotten corners of the past. And our search started high above the city. Our first stop was Alanya Castle, sitting on a rocky peninsula overlooking the Mediterranean. And the easiest way to get up there is by gondola. People have been fortifying this hill for thousands of years, but much of what we see today dates from the 13th century, when Alanya became an important stronghold of the Seljuk Empire. The Seljuk Sultan, Alaaddin Keykubat, captured the city in 1221 and transformed it into one of his most important ports on the Mediterranean. And once you start walking around, it's pretty easy to see why this was such a valuable location. The walls run along the hillside, with ruins scattered throughout the grounds. One of the more interesting things we found was this old cistern. Water would have been critical to a city like this, particularly during a siege, and these underground reservoirs helped keep the population supplied. Today, it's easy to walk through a place like this and see nothing more than an old stone room. But hundreds of years ago, something as simple as having enough water could determine whether a city survived. We also came across the remains of what was once a market area. There's not a whole lot left today, but it gives you another glimpse of what this hilltop must have looked like when it was a living, working city. People weren't just defending the castle up here. They were living, trading, working, and going about their daily lives. From up here, you get an entirely different perspective of Alanya. The city spreads out along the coast, with the old harbor sitting below the castle. And standing here, it's easy to understand why this rocky peninsula has been such a prized strategic position for more than 2,000 years. After exploring the castle, we headed back down toward the harbor. And down here, the city's Seljuk history continues. The Red Tower is probably the most recognizable landmark in the harbor area. Built in the 13th century, it was designed to help protect the harbor and the shipyard below. It's an unusual building with 8 sides and a combination of stone and red brick that gives the tower its distinctive appearance. At around 30 meters tall, it must have been an imposing sight when it was part of the city's defenses. Just below the tower is the old Seljuk shipyard. Built in the same period, this is where ships could be built and maintained right on the Mediterranean. It's a little hard to picture this as a working shipyard today, but for more than 800 years, ships were being constructed in these stone bays and launched directly into the harbor. For the Seljuks, having a fortified port and a shipyard like this was an important part of controlling this stretch of the Mediterranean. And the harbor is still filled with boats today, although these colorful sailing ships look like they might be more interested in taking tourists out for a day on the Mediterranean than defending the city. But Alanya wasn't the only place we wanted to explore. We'd come to this part of Türkiye because of its history, and there was an ancient city just a short trip away that we couldn't pass up, so we headed to Side. Side is about an hour from Alanya, and the history here goes back much further than the medieval sites we'd just been exploring. The city was founded by Greek settlers and later became an important Roman city, and today the ancient ruins are scattered throughout the modern town. There are ruins everywhere. Some are little more than piles of stones, while others are remarkably well preserved. And as you walk through the old city, you start to get a sense of just how large and important Side must have been. One of the most famous sites in Side is the ancient theater. Unfortunately, when we visited, the theater was undergoing restoration and the entire area was closed off, so we could only get a few glimpses from the outside. It was a little disappointing, but that's part of traveling. Sometimes the place you came to see isn't quite ready for visitors. Fortunately, there was still plenty to explore, and some of the most dramatic ruins are right along the waterfront. The combination of ancient stone, columns, and the Mediterranean in the background makes it easy to see why this location was so important. Walking through Side was also a good reminder of just how much history is packed into this part of Turkey. In a relatively short trip from Alanya, we had gone from a medieval Seljuk fortress to the remains of a city that had been here for more than 2,000 years. Our month in Alanya ended up being much different from the typical Mediterranean vacation. We weren't there looking for beaches or summer crowds. We came looking for history. And from the castle high above Alanya to the Selçuk Shipyard and Red Tower, and then on to the ancient ruins of Sida, we found plenty of it. December might not be the time most people picture when they think about visiting Alanya. It was chilly, and the city was much quieter than it would be in the summer. But for us, that wasn't really the point. We came looking for the past, and there was plenty of it waiting to be found.